and thank you for joining me today. I'm joined by Chris Jarrett, who is playing Aslan in the touring production of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, which is coming to Nottingham next week from the 1st to the 5th of February. Hello, Chris. Can you please tell me about the production and your role of Aslan within it?
Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, classic C.S. Lewis tale. It's an epic. I think it spans 7 books, and then there are offshoots. So it's a huge universe reminiscent of something like Lord of the Rings or these big popular worlds now. It's steeped with sort of profundity. It's got a real powerful message about surviving hard times and moving forward positively, which has never been more applicable, it feels, than now. I play a lion, Aslan. We don't know where he's been. I suspect he's been lying dormant, or he's been walking for a long time. He's been on a long journey because we've endured 100-year winter in Narnia. And from the moment that Lucy steps through this wardrobe in Scotland, Aslan somehow is awoken, and the wheels are in motion to dethrone Jadis, the White Witch, and restore at Caer Paravel the Pevensey children as kings and queens.
Amazing. And I've already seen it, so I'm already going to say it's brilliant. But how do you what attracted you to the part? I know there's another follow-on question coming up, but obviously you're working with some of the people you've kind of worked with previously. I guess that kind of helps, I suppose.
Yeah. I'll be honest, the part wasn't the attraction so much as the people, as you say. It's a team of people who I trust implicitly, and I'm really grateful to be able to work with again and again. So that was the allure. Actually, the thought of playing Aslan in particular, I found a little daunting because it has such huge sort of connotations, and it was easy to feel a little dwarfed by it. And you sort of work out those things in rehearsal, so it wasn't an issue. But I remember the anticipation before we started the work was one of dread and fear, rather than, "Whoa, this is great, he's a lion." Looking back now, I think I should have adopted more of the latter, because it's a fantastic treat. You get to exist on a different plane than how we are now. It's really good fun.
Yeah.
I highly recommend being a lion.
Well, I'll give it a go. I won't start roaring just because the viewers won't enjoy that. But as you say, you're working with Michael again, Fentiman, and obviously there's some of the same cast members that you've just worked with kind of for the last 2 years in Amelie. Does that kind of help when you're in the rehearsal room, because you've already got that connection? I know there's obviously then new people to bring in, but does that help when you're setting up the show?
It's bound to. We haven't discussed it as a group on how that has impacted, but I feel instinctively that it has. I mean, the message for Amelie was all about that connection, and we felt the importance of that, and we're a very tight family, thankfully, as a result. And that has continued. Yeah, I feel incredibly safe with those colleagues who I've worked with now for 4 consecutive years. It feels like a real ensemble. I hear about the RSC having the ensemble not long before you and I first met. And that was a 2-3 year company. And it feels like this is something like that, or something like being back in an educational environment, a drama school. Or it provides the challenges of, it gives you the access to be able to challenge one another, but in a safe way. The ego is dropped. Now I'm less concerned with putting myself across as a fool, because you know that this is your family, and there's a lot of care for one another. So that is very, very helpful. And in the show, it's probably helpful too, because it means that there's a shorthand. There's a shared experience that means that we can fix problems quick.
Yeah.
If something goes awry in the performance, it doesn't take a great deal of communication to try and fix it. A lot can be done silently, and a lot can be done really efficiently. And that spans across the backstage team. Now, our company manager, Amy Jane, has also worked with us for 3 years, so she understands a lot of our company really well. And it provides a very fluid experience, I suppose.
And obviously, for people who haven't seen the production yet, Aslan is both yourself as the human and Toby Ollie's puppet, played by kind of 3 actors as well. So how was the kind of that process when you were kind of figuring out the kind of physicality of the role, kind of building that character?
Well, it's very exciting. I remember the first day we visited the the workshop where Aslan the puppet was created by Max Humphreys, and Toby and I went for a visit, and we got to start that play with the lads puppeteering as well. So we got to figure out how, does this work? Does this feel like it might be a good language for us? That play was really exhilarating. And then of course you get into rehearsing the show, and time is always a pressure. You haven't got 4 weeks to try and develop a language. You need to get things done really quickly. So that was challenging, certainly, trying to negotiate traversing a space with a 6-foot lion, 4 of us sort of circulating in a really tight space. There were technical challenges, and we fell over each other a lot. Bits of our limbs have fallen off at various points. But yeah, I think we're getting into the swing of it now.
And how do you kind of like, I'm not saying that Amelie wasn't a physical show, but how have you kind of dealt with the kind of physicality of it all? Because I know obviously you were playing kind of ensemble roles as well within the show.
Yes, it's a very different ambiance in the theatre, I suppose, because we have a lot of really highly skilled movers.
Yeah,
there were fantastic movers in Amelie, but I don't think any of us were trained. Actually, a few of us were, I'm sure, but that wasn't a sort of something we leaned on in the show. There were no out and out dance numbers, so we could get away with walking around quite a lot. Whereas there's dance in this, and as a result of that, we have in place really good physical warm-ups led by our dance captain Tash Holloway, and there's greater care in the physicality, I suppose. And that's what's been really interesting about this, is that sort of convergence of these disciplines of musicality, of movement, of text, and having people from a really diverse set of skills coming together to share that. Some of us are stronger with movement, some of us got stronger musicality perhaps. And when those people get into the same room, you can make really exciting things happen.
Amazing. And it's like, obviously, I'm not saying your personality is like a lion, but do you see any of your like own qualities within the character?
Well, I'd like to. I suppose I'd like my best qualities on a good day to be in this Aslan. But it's quite a tall order, this sort of all-powerful, benevolent, wild beast that is described as not being safe but being good. I mean, we all get the idea of who this character may resemble, and I don't know, I think I've had to just steal little bits of what that might look like. I don't know, maybe a little of me from time to time. He certainly sounds a bit Welsh every once in a while. And that's all me.
It's very strong. And obviously, kind of like, as you mentioned there, obviously the text comes from C.S. Lewis's book originally. Do you kind of like, did you lean on that when you kind of when you've got the script? Did you kind of go back to that at all, or? Yeah.
So I think when Sally Cookson mounted this show and all the work that Michael Fentiman and both creative teams have done, what's evident is that they've crammed a lot of story into a very short playing time. The show runs for 2 hours, really, with an interval. And there's a lot of material to get through. So a lot has been condensed, and we've, I guess, cherry-picked the themes and the elements of the story that we want to tell to make our version of the story work. But getting into rehearsals and having these small scenes where you're trying to leap from, I'd say this is probably more for the Pevensey children, but they have huge sort of journeys to travel on and very little space on the page to do it. So I think everybody's really been sort of using the text, that C.S. Lewis's text, as their Bible, because there's a wealth of information there that our script can't hold unless we were to keep you all in the theatre for a lock-in all night. So there's certainly elements of it. Johnson Willis, who plays Professor Kirk, he's been reading very studiously the first book, which is The Magician's Nephew, and there's clues there as to how Narnia came to be and what his role was as a younger man. And there's nothing in the play, there are no words that tells us that, but my word, you watch it and you go, I'm sniffing a quality of something, maybe can't quite put my finger on it, but you feel that there's been some work done at a deep level. It does show, I think.
Yeah, and obviously one of the things I found seeing it when I saw it in Leicester was kind of it's the audience, kind of the diversity of kind of, obviously you could play into 80-year-olds or 90-year-olds, then there's kind of massive school groups in. Is that kind of a exciting for you as a performer, kind of getting that such a range of kind of an audience?
Yeah, oh, it's great. It's really fun and really nice to get all of those groups into the building together when we can.
Yeah.
But particularly school shows. We were lucky. We've done our stint in Manchester, and a lot of schools came to visit, as they have in our previous venues, as I hope they will in Nottingham next week and beyond.
Yeah.
And it's really wild having 400 or 500 students in the theatre, because there's some great, really sexy fight scenes. There's some Santa Claus appears. It gets quite zany at points. And you feel kids are really good at letting you know when they smell bullshit, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And they're also really good at just enjoying the scene if they're having a good time. So we can hear that, we can feel it. That's been riotous.
Yes, I will say, I think it was the third performance I saw. They were all like clapping along with the big battle, and it was amazing.
Yeah, and it's amazing because the rhythm there, a lot of the rhythm in that battle music is in 5/4, so we're going 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4. Now, I'd suggest that most of the time in the theatre, if you offer a rhythm like that, there's going to be a few people lost. But kids seem to just get it. They absorb it and go, "Yep, I know what that is."
Yeah, they're better than I am probably. But kind of like, this is a big question that I asked Samantha Womack and Toby when I spoke to them at Kev. If you had a magical wardrobe of your own that could go anywhere, forward or travel to a different country now or into the future, you've only got one option, where would you go?
Where would I go? I think I'd want to travel somewhere where music was going through a big change. I'm not quite sure when that would be. If I'd want it to be sort of New Orleans in America, not so long ago, or a little further back to be in Europe while classical music is going through big transformations. Or do I jump ahead? Oh, this is a tough one, Mark.
Yeah, so it's difficult because it's hard. Toby said he'd want to go to the dinosaurs because
to the dinosaurs, really far back.
That's what inspired him, he said.
I can picture Toby Ollier sort of frolicking around fields with dinosaurs.
Yeah, and Samantha wanted to go and see her grandparents again. So, I mean,
oh wow,
that was a good answer. You see, now.
Yeah, well done, Sam.
I've put you on the spot, really, but it's a difficult question, really. But somewhere
yeah,
music.
Well, I've sort of I've followed down the musical route now, so I'll stick with it. But I tell you what, I'm in Wales right now, and Welsh male voice choirs have always been a big thing. So I suppose I'd like to travel back to the South Wales valleys when the mining communities were really thriving, and get a sniff of that, what my parents would have grown up with. Yeah. So thanks, Sam. Yeah, I'm going to take a little flavour of her answer. Family is very important.
That is very true. And the last question on this kind of section is it's your time to sell it. Why should audiences come and see the show?
Because you can, and because we haven't been allowed to go to the theatre for a long time, and now you can. And we don't know for how long. So come while you can, because what you have is a passionate team of people who have been desperate to tell this story at all costs. We're really geared up to tell it now more than ever. And what's also especially exciting about theatre now is that swings and understudies have been given this ridiculous task of having to achieve a great amount in little time with little preparation. So there's a good chance if you go to the theatre now, you're going to be in for a sort of once in a lifetime show where things aren't what they usually are and might never be like that again. Live theatre.
All right, let's throw you in to these quickfire ones.
Okay.
The first one, what was the first piece of theatre that you remember seeing?
Actually, our very own Johnson Willis, who was playing Professor Kirk in Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, performed in not Journey. There was like a sort of sci-fi actor musical that came about in the 90s. What's it called? Not Journey Around the World.
Journey.
Very spacey. There was a rocket that returned to the Forbidden Planet.
There you go. I was going to get the program out then. I've still got
that I
Yeah.
wonder if he's, so it was 25 years ago, and I suspect that was the first show that my mum would have taken me to see, or at least that I can remember, and I was really moved by it.
Yeah.
It had great musicality. People were swapping instruments. Somebody would pick up a sax, throw that somewhere, a guitar would come out. It was really sort of fun, raucous event. And it turns out I wouldn't have known Johnson then, but that would have been the first time I saw him perform in 1994.
Amazing. And what would be, this is a difficult one, what would be the favourite piece of theatre that you've ever seen? What's the one standout?
Okay. Yeah, it's at the Roundhouse up in Kentish Town. I saw a show which I'll pronounce very badly, but it was called something along the lines of Fuerza Bruta. And it was sort of circus, it was physical theatre. There, a pool, a big square pool descended from the ceiling. There was some synchronized movement there. There was a treadmill that was running, bits of set flying around the stage. It was a real sort of physical, visual treat. And I'd not seen any theatre like that up to that point. So that was really sort of eye-opening.
Yeah. What would be
Fuerza Bruta or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I'll find a thing and put it in the description so people can find it.
Fuerza Bruta.
What would be your favourite food? I mean,
my favourite food?
Yeah, one specific one. Just one food that if you wanted food, what would you like? You can only have
does
one
a sandwich count? Can I have a sandwich?
What are you going to have in it though? I mean, you can't. That's cheating.
I can't have any number of sandwiches.
No, because then you
I couldn't have like a cheese sandwich one day and a tuna sandwich the next.
You might like throw like chocolate bar sandwich in and like just not eat the bread, and then you're cheating, then aren't you? So you're cheating the system, man.
Yeah. Hey, I really like chocolate bars too, you know.
Yeah, see, it's difficult.
Chocolate bar sandwich. That's what I'd have. It would be a chocolate bar sandwich. That would be my favorite food.
You have to like, do it like a deep fried Mars bar style sandwich.
Yeah, well, I could have been eating that today had we have travelled to Aberdeen.
Yeah, it's thingy today, isn't it? I call it Scotland Day. That sounds terrible, doesn't it?
Scotland Day is close enough.
Haggis Day, that's what it is.
Haggis Day. Haggis Day. They call it Burns Night as well.
Burns Night is the one.
Yeah.
I'm glad you know it. Sorry to my Scotland viewers. If you could be,
Burns, are you going to put another link to Burns Night down here?
This is you may cheat here because you're obviously playing a lion. But if you could be an animal for a day, what would you be?
I'd want to fly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'd be some sort of bird. I've been watching crows for the last few years, and they fascinate me. I don't know if I would be a crow. I'd want one with a wingspan. I think I'd really like to glide.
Yeah.
Perhaps an eagle, an American bald eagle.
Yeah, solid. That's a good choice. That is a good choice. Where this is going to upset people because this is always a difficult question. Where has been the favourite place you've played on this tour so far? Or if not, you can throw it to where are you most looking forward to going?
Okay. Well,
I mean, obviously, Curve was the pinnacle. I mean, you opened it.
Leicester's always there at the top of any touring list. No, certainly Leicester and Manchester have been great solely because we've spent longer chunks of time there, and that's really useful to be able to bed in because it's hard being somewhere for 5 days and then the crew have this unimaginable task of ripping it down and setting it up again 24 hours later. It is a slog. So when you get the opportunity to stay somewhere for more than a week, people can breathe just a little more. Yeah. So that has been nice. That said, I mean, we haven't done many venues yet. Sunderland's great. The crew up there are really welcoming, and they had just been battered by Storm Arwen, and yet we were really warmly received, and so that went very well. And I was looking forward to going to Cardiff. Sadly, that's not happening now. We've got some really great venues. We're going to be in Bristol towards the end. Yeah. Really enjoy being back there. And Scotland, I am looking forward to. We'll be in Edinburgh in a few weeks' time, and we visited with Emily and haven't been back since. So that'll be nice for nostalgia's sake.
What would be one thing on your bucket list? It can be anything.
Can I travel back in time for it, or should this one be very
whatever
much
you want?
In the sort
whatever
of
you want.
space-time?
Your bucket list. I mean,
you know, I'd want to be in America again.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that I've mentioned America 3 times now, but I really love the NBA, and I used to fantasy about playing with Michael Jordan, the Chicago Bulls of the early 90s when they kept winning tournaments. Scottie Pippen, BJ Armstrong, Horace Grant. These were my dream team. And I'd love to have been in the starting five with them.
Yeah. Amazing. What was the last song you listened to, if you remember what it was?
What was the last song I listened to? Yeah, I watched like 2 nights ago a documentary about Dolly Parton, which was on the BBC.
Yeah.
And it was very good. And I listened to Islands in the Stream by Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers. Classic. And she blew me away. I've always known it was a catchy song, but after watching the documentary, I thought, okay, she's great.
Yeah.
And I listened closer, and I was never more impressed than this last listen. She is fantastic.
No, I'll give her more attention, because she's not one.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really listen to like normal music, which sounds terrible. I always listen to like theatre stuff, so I'm always kind of in that.
Go on, what was your last song?
Probably Waitress, like, because I was like in that world of
at
like
theatre.
writing review this morning. Kind of like, it's always sometimes then helpful if I can put the like recording on to like jog a memory or something, can't it? Then a little bit.
Yeah, good idea.
It's nice.
You're professional, man.
No, not really. I try, but it's not. I'm trying. Not going on the state of this interview. Probably not. What was the last series that you? I mean, obviously you're touring, so it's a bit hard. But that was the last series you binged.
Yeah, well, as you know, I've got an 18-month girl now, and TV has sort of really slipped down to the bottom of the pile with things that we think we have time to do. That said, we've watched Only Murders in the Building.
Oh, I was watching that this morning. There we go.
Were you? I really enjoyed it. You know, I was a big fan of the Three Amigos when I grew up, and Martin Short and Steve Martin were my favorites of the three. And I think they put in fine performances. Selena Gomez too. I think the three of them are really, really great. That was good storytelling.
I'm only halfway through, so don't spoil the end. I've got no idea where it's going.
Okay.
Yes, good. I presume have you seen their special on Netflix? Martin.
No, I never watched it. I remember that was coming out. They were doing a live show as well, I think. But
yeah, that's good for an hour's watch if you get the time.
Okay.
If you need a recommendation. This is more of a general question though about theatre. What would be your general favourite theatre, either to perform in or go and watch a show in?
I had a great opportunity to work with a circus company in Italy about 5 years ago. Forenza Guidi was the director. The company was called It's No Fit State. They're based out of Cardiff. And she had a sort of summer school set up in Tuscany, outside a small town called San Miniato. And being there, working with circus professionals for 2 or 3 weeks in the summer was really eye-opening again, to see these skills coming into play through the medium of theatre. And I've been watching lots of clips of Cirque du Soleil recently with Audrey.
Yeah, of course.
And I suspect a company of that caliber. I really I like that big sort of visual spectacle.
Yeah.
I think sort of it very easily penetrates me. And so yeah, a big show like Fuerza Bruta or whatever that one was. You can put the link back there.
Oh, no, I can't.
Fuerza Bruta.
I've never been able to spell any of these. You'll have to write a list for when I come next week. It's like fling it.
See you Thursday. There we go. Yeah, we'll get our spellings checked out.
No pressure. This is another tough question. This is almost wardrobe level question. If you're going to have dinner with any free guests, dead or alive, who are you inviting?
Whoa.
That's a stinker of a question, really.
My word. I'd want a comedian there. And what comedians do I like? I'd want Billy Connolly there.
Yes, brilliant.
I'd want an academic, and I suspect that would be someone like, I don't know, Christopher Hitchens, really argumentative, sort of fiery, opinionated.
Yeah.
That might be a good leveler. And then, so I've got a comedian, I've got the brains. I need someone really pretty. Brad Pitt, is he still on the sort of pretty list? Probably. Brad Pitt or George Clooney or...
Yeah, I suppose you didn't say Michael Jordan then, to be fair. I was going to throw that in, but then you're going to have to have a fourth one.
Well, you know, you should never meet your heroes. And I watched The Last Dance on Netflix, and inevitably you sort of go, I wish I didn't know some of this stuff, because I was in this innocent bubble as a 11-year-old thinking that these guys were best of friends and it was a rosy existence. And then you hear about their plights and you go, no. So no, Michael's not coming to dinner.
The last question I have for you, though, what would be the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I'm not sure anyone's given it me. I'm sure they have, but I think what I wish I'd have taken heed of more was to not care so much about the judgment, and to not feel the need to protect yourself from criticism.
Yeah.
To be bold and yourself. That's got to be good advice, isn't it? That's going to really serve people well over the course of their lives.
Yeah, that is very true. It's not very good for me as a theatre critic when I'm going to come and pick at you.
Or pick up an instrument. That's good advice.
Yeah, that's
as well.
always a good one. Yeah, I
was talking to my uncle who's in his early 60s, and he was saying, that's one of my biggest regrets. I haven't picked up an instrument. Do it. Do it now.
Yeah, I've got a ukulele that I've had for so long that it's never played. But I don't get a guitar, to be fair. It's even older that I can't play it. I mean, one of the strings is broken, which doesn't help. So, but I can't play it until I need to get lessons. But it's finding that time in it to sit down and do it. And
yeah, it's a commitment. But the rewards are huge, and the rewards grow exponentially. This same with anything, right? Starting is often hard, and the first year or two of it is going to be a slog. But if you persevere, you start to receive back. You reap what you've sown.
Yeah. Which is always good.
I feel it now. I'm lucky I'm getting to work. I never anticipated when I was a teenager in my bedroom playing the guitar that I would ever find employment when I get to play the guitar. And over the course of the last 15 years, I find that that can happen.
Yeah. I've not seen you without yours yet. One day. See, one day you have to do a roll. When you're in the circus, when you're like trapezing, you have to...
There we go. I'll be juggling guitars then. You'll still see them.
Oh, there you go. On fire as well, like full out. Well, that leads me to thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Mark. It's nice to see you again, mate. Try to do one more sales pitch. I can do it better. Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe. Come into a town near you. There's not long left. Get your tickets. It's going to be a wild ride.